It is recording. And we'll go to the audience. And the photographer makes 7. And go.
Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you are in your dream job. Appealing, isn't it? Now imagine you are in the exact same dream job where you've gotten absolutely everything you've ever wanted, except you aren't paid for any of it. Now imagine at the same time your bosses and managers make all kinds of money off your appearance and image as well as your achievements, and you don't see any of it. Unfair sounding, isn't it? Unfortunately, this is the reality with college and basketball and football athletes today. And it's also led to a more unfortunate phenomenon of them being forced into risky financial situations of accepting bribes and through gambling bets in order to make ends meet. However, the NCAA themselves do not support paid athletes because they value the image of the amateur athlete. However, what they don't realize, or they don't want to realize more likely, is despite the billions of dollars of revenue this industry makes, there is a dark side to this business. Not only do they get nothing, but their images are used in all forms of advertising and media, such as video games, promotions, tickets, apparel, and they don't get anything from it. In fact, in the case of college football athletes in particular, they spend about 40 hours a week practicing, which is twice the NCAA allowed amount, which amounts essentially to a full-time job. Most of these people who are most tempted to go into these risky financial ventures are those from poor economic backgrounds who desperately need the money. This makes them vulnerable to sponsors who exploit them for their own gain and do not care about the athletes themselves. But first, in order to explain why these athletes deserve a fair salary, we need to go back a little bit. In the beginning, football needed regulation. In fact, many people died on the field in its early days because it was so violent. In one case of a football player dying while on the field, their family sued the school, and this eventually led to the formation of the NCAA in 1906. In the beginning, these players were compensated, although it wasn't perfect. However, there were scandals involving money even back then, which led to the Sandy Code in 1948 by the NCAA that stated no money from outside sources should be received, and any school found violating this would essentially be kicked from competing and thus ruin their reputation. And of course this was very controversial, and this was essentially repealed within a few years. However, to this day, these athletes are still not paid. The NCAA did not become a major business until the 1960s or 70s or so, but as the money increased, so did the exploitation. Not just by the advertisers, but the colleges themselves. Many of them are from minorities from underprivileged backgrounds who desperately need money. However, according to the Atlantic, in the words of Sonny Pachero, many are not shy about how much they exploit these athletes. He is best known for creating the pioneering shoe deal with Michael Jordan in 1984, and in his words, he says, "We want to put our materials on the bodies of your athletes. And the best way to do that is to buy your school, or buy your coach." Meanwhile, these players barely can afford to make ends meet. According to an article written by Peter Jacobs of the Business Insider, as I stated before, athletes spend about 40 hours a week practicing. This is double the NCAA requirement. This leaves them with very few, if no time for side jobs and education itself, which leaves them in a desperate economic situation. When you think of it, 40 hours is essentially a full-time job. Despite all the money these college sports have brought, they've brought their fair share of scandals. Unfortunately, these only serve to threaten these athletes' careers. This goes back quite a bit. In the 1950s, 3 athletes were banned from the NBA for life because it was revealed they engaged in point shaving in college. Point shaving is basically throwing games in order to make money from gamblers. Here in this photo, this is from the Denver Press of 2011, the Ohio State lost their Big Ten championship after it was revealed players were trading memorabilia and autographs for tattoos and cash. Meanwhile, multiple other players have had scandals of their own. For example, Cam Newton, when he was in college and the quarterback for Auburn, he had 2 scandals. One, he was pulled from competing in a major game because he was receiving gifted trips from Miami, and another one, this was the fault of his family, and his father demanded a payment of about $160,000 from recruiters. In the case of Des Bryant, he lost his Heisman Trophy when it was found out that he had received gifts and mentoring from the NFL, which is obviously not going to sit well with the NCAA. These scandals of clear exploitation, despite all of it, many do not feel compensated is a good idea. Many fear that they will be considered athletes. Athletes will be considered employees after this. I do agree they should not be considered employees. However, we do owe them a fair salary. Here are some proposed solutions. Are one for the NCPA, also known as the National College Players Association, stated that an idea that pay drew profits from tournaments and give full scholarships at the cost of attendance. According to a commentary by Bill Littlefield, a voucher system set by market to take courses when able medical insurance could work. Like it or not, unfortunately, potentially career-threatening injuries can happen, and if one happens that does result in a big career injury, this way they won't be left with nothing when they leave the college. Another way this could be solved is through salaries that are from profits from apparel, video games, and ticket sales, as well as licensing fees. Of course, this would vary by sport because football and college, of course, are a lot bigger than competitive swimming, I would say. Also, a lot of it would be from Division I schools because the lower division schools don't make as much money, and this would be incredibly unfair to them for them to pay that much. An example of how this would work is last year's March Madness tournament revenue of $220 million. According to Tim Parker Investopedia, which is about $1.7 million for playing one game. Only 13 players can be rostered, which means plenty of money can be spread around. Unfortunately, the NCAA's massive money maker was created when football being reformed, now has to be reformed itself. Scandals continue to surface, and players are enticed into desperate situations in need of money. A fair salary is the only way to reduce corruption, so whether it be from vouchers, money for merchandise, or playoffs. Now I ask you, how did you feel in this situation? Like in this picture by Nelson Chennault from USA Today, this coach, be like the Alabama coach who makes $7 million a year, or in this photo from Nicholas Allen from Fanside in 2014, work 30-40 hours a week and get nothing. I now ask you, is this fair? Is it time for a change? I agree. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Where will the money come from to pay the athletes?
It will come from profits from the games and from the schools themselves. Of course, this will widely vary by sport and school, because Division I schools make a lot more money than the lower division schools, and it would be incorrect, once again, be unfair to the lower division schools to make them pay this much. Also, football and basketball are the 2 biggest sports, so they put the most effort into it.
Okay.
Would all of the players get it regardless if they were the stars or the lowest one?
Yes, everyone on the team. Shannon.
Will paying the athletes change them in any way?
Yes, it will, but in a positive way. In this way, they will no longer be forced to be in desperate economic need in order to make ends meet, and will be able to pay for their schooling and without having to work a second job and not risk being thrown out and jeopardizing any future careers, as this has happened several times in the past.
Okay, great, thank you. And then one final scan of the audience for the request.
Beautiful.
And the photographer is still here as well. Hello. Thank you.